All right, and we're off. This is the Suisun Harbor Crit. This is the Cat 4-5 field. It's a mixed field of Cat 4s and Cat 5s. Today we're riding on a pancake flat 4-corner crit. If someone asks me what a criterium is, I usually tell them it's NASCAR on bikes. And this course is more like NASCAR on bikes than most of the other courses we ride here in Northern California. Dead flat, 4 corners, get her done. I'm riding with 2 other teammates. I'm with Dolce Vita. The other teams represented are Alto Velo, San Jose Bike Club, and We Bike. They all have, I think, 3 riders in this field, and there's a couple other teams that have 2 riders in the field. Going into the race, I felt like there was a decent chance of a break being established at some point. And I figured the efforts for breaks to go would be early. So I came out of the gate and I actually did a ripper of a lap here. I think I averaged over 340 watts or something like that, which is not what I should be doing, honestly. But I wanted to get out of the gate clean, make this race fast, make it hard, and kind of just cull the shaft, so to speak, immediately. We're racing 4s and 5s. They told us before this race that they're not going to be pulling people. And we'll see later on the results of that and the problematic nature that exists when you combine a 4-5 field on a course that is less than a minute sometimes in a lap. It causes issues. But so we're just going to go over highlights today. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that happen in the race, some of the key moments, and then we'll see how I end up doing overall. I came into this race with high expectations. I set myself a goal of getting top 5 and getting some upgrade points. When I looked at the field, I felt like I was one of the stronger riders in the field and expected myself to come out and do well. So let's move into a little deeper into this race, the next phase of the race, and speed through some of this. Okay, so we're about 7 minutes into this race. I had mentioned that I expected there to be some attempts at breaks, and I was actually hoping for a break. I had 2 teammates in the field. We both agreed that if the team comp was correct and the break went, they would run out and actually slow the pack down and give us our best shot at getting away. So I kind of was looking for the break to happen, and I was hoping that we would actually get a break. I would have liked that. I feel confident in the break with my sustained power and liked the reduced kind of numbers that come with it. So there are a few of what you just saw, these little surges off the front where people are looking to get away if they can. And if it's an individual rider like the one you see here, I'm actually not interested in going into the break with them. I have there's no one else in that field that's going to work to slow them down, right? So I don't want to break with a single rider. I want to break with one of the few teams that are represented well here. And when I looked around, there weren't too many real attempts at breaks happening. And in many cases, someone goes up the road, like this CBRE rider here, and I don't want to chase that, and I don't want to surge up to 600 watts to bring it back. There's no point in me doing that, and it's actually far more preferable for me to let him fry out there in the wind and be above his threshold. So that's what I do. There's a couple times when I just let people go off the front. I'm not going to chase it back. I'm going to let him fry himself out there. He'll fry. He'll be hurting pretty badly. And then if I want to come by and put the hammer down, I can, or I can just keep the power on. This guy in front of me decides he doesn't want that person to get away. And if I get a draft, I can just hang out and we can close it down, cool. But otherwise, I'm just going to let them sit out there. I know where my threshold numbers are, and I know that I can do those numbers for the duration of the race. And while it's hard, I won't blow up. So this happens a few times where I just let some of these guys go out the front and fry themselves, and the idea is they're not going to be there at the end. They'll be gone. They're putting in large, over threshold anaerobic efforts right now. But unless they have great recovery, it's really hard to stay in the bubble. One of the common themes that happened regarding mistakes was clipped pedals in this race. I clipped a pedal once, and I saw 2 or 3, maybe even more, 4 people clip a pedal. You're going to see it happen right here for this rider up in front of me. That right there, that jump from the inside pedal clipping the ground, he dropped his chain, so his day was done. But there was many times I saw people clipping their pedal. A couple of other riders, including myself, did clip a pedal. And I do believe one of the reasons that some riders clip pedals is when it slows down, you shift into an easier gear to pedal in that's a little bit higher than you've been in for the rest of the race, and all of a sudden that crank arm comes around quicker than you expect because you're just 1 gear higher on your cassette. So instead of getting tension immediately in the chain, your leg just falls freely, and that fraction of a second where it's not under tension and not driving your bike forward results in your foot coming down too fast, and then you strike your pedal. So I found for myself, I believe that was the case when I had a pedal strike, is I struck the ground because we were going slow, not because we were going fast. Kind of interesting thing. Thankfully, I didn't see anyone have a pedal strike that resulted in a major incident or a crash. Those of us who did pedal strike did a good job of keeping the rubber side down and continue onward, or just pulling off to the side like that other guy did. One more bit I would love to touch on. Our group experienced a fair number of mistakes in the form of pedal strikes or positioning issues. One rider actually shaved my rear tire at one point, almost went down. And we were all super respectful of each other, very nice and apologetic if something happened. So here's a situation where I'm alongside a guy, and he actually comes over and almost takes me into the cones on his orange bike there. And at first I thought, oh, wow, what an idiot. But then I realized I didn't tell him I was outside. He might not have even known I was there. So I went back in and I said, hey, I'm sorry about that. That was on me too. I should have let you know I was outside. This guy can't read minds. He doesn't know I'm there unless I tell him. So overall, we had a fair number of pedal strikes, positioning issues, this, that, and the other, but we were always respectful, and I really appreciate that. That's something that we need to maintain and keep up in our sport. And at the end of the day, we all have jobs. We're out here for fun. We're out here to have a good time. We make mistakes out here, especially under pressure, and that's actually okay as long as we don't get in a fuss about it and then get angry with each other and treat each other with respect. So really happy that we could race competitively but respectfully with each other in a challenging course like this under pressure. So that was really great. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that this race course is really short. It's only a minute long, and they've got the 4s and 5s running together, and they said they would not be pulling them if they could avoid it and allowing them to race their race. I knew when they said that this was going to create some challenges for us in our race. You can see that we're blowing by people right now, it made for a very challenging situation for us, as the speed differential between the lead group and those who've been lapped is so great that it just makes it very dangerous. So we come into a corner and we'd have 2 or 3 lapped riders who are fanned out across the road. Some of them are in the race line, some of them are not. And the result every time is that the lead group has to adjust its positioning, its speed, the way it moves in order to deal with these lapped riders. And this happened from about lap 4 or 5. We lapped our first rider on lap 5 or 6 of this race. And it continued up until maybe like minute 30, minute 35. I think I heard maybe that they actually did start pulling people off. But at times it was very difficult to know who was lapped, who was not. What did I need to chase? What did I not need to chase? And then it was also just kind of dangerous. Now, I'm very sympathetic to the idea that we need to let 5s race and get their whole race in. Driving an hour to an hour and a half to come out and have your race pulled from you in 6 to 8 minutes is not fun. And my hope is that we re-examine how we race together and make the choice to run the 5s on these very short, aggressive courses in their own race and let the 4s race their own race. It will, I believe anyway, it will help with what is at the end of the day a dangerous situation. That's just kind of how I categorize it. It's just dangerous for guys doing 28 to roll up on someone who's doing their best but doing 18 on the course still. So yeah, that was something that I was not excited about and kind of had to be on guard. All of us were on guard for that at the front, knowing that lapped riders were going to be an issue, and they were an issue for most of this race. Okay, we're picking up action now, about 38 minutes into the race. I've got an Alta Vela rider and an unaffiliated rider in front of me, and we're heading into the bell lap. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling like, okay, I have a great chance of being able to hit my goal of top 5. As soon as that bell lap started, people started looking at each other and no one wanted to be on the front. This rider swings around to the inside of me and does a pretty monster effort here on the back straight. And in this moment, I think I've got this thing wrapped up. Like, this is great. Second wheel going into the final corners. This is gravy. And then this happens. Alta Vela comes on the inside. This guy gets majorly spooked. We go from doing 30 miles an hour down to about 23, 22. They're doing 30 miles an hour still. This guy pretty much just sits up and calls it a day. And I was on his rear wheel. There's nothing I can do. No amount of power or watts or speed will make up the gap that has occurred due to what just happened in the corner. And we'll go back and we're going to review this one in slow motion to show exactly what occurred. Overall, like, pretty disappointing when you head into the final corners of the crit and you're second wheel. This is a good sign for you. At least I thought it was a good sign for me. I'm like, hey, this is great. I might be able to do this. And man, it did not work out the way that I had planned. So, a bit of a bummer. But let's go back and take a look in slow motion to see exactly what happened. Okay, here's the moment that it all went wrong. Alta Vela comes in on the left, swings a little bit wide in order to take this corner fast. This guy freaks out. He stops pedaling, grabs a handful of brakes. Going into the final corner, we're getting swarmed. I narrowly miss his rear tire, and I am shuffled from second wheel back to 10th wheel or so at this point. And that's the end of my race. There is no coming back from that. So, super fun race. Had a great time. Congrats to Way on the win. Thanks to Velopromo for putting this on. We'll get him next time.